Oh, let's see, as far as the music part is concerned, those 4 or 5. Oh, I wanted to mention the man that's in a rest home. That's a great Ozarks musician. And I haven't kept up with his age. I believe he graduated from Buffalo High School in 1941. So you can figure out he's getting close to about 97 years old. How many of you know the name Russell Newport? Russell Newport is in a rest home now. I do not know his condition. I'm not a close friend of his. Last I heard, he was okay. I mean, getting around, still going, to get his own meals and things like that. His wife is deceased. Russell Newport doesn't represent the hillbilly side of the Ozarks music scene. He represents people that are trained to sing. Now he, like many others, was born with that attribute. But he became just almost an operatic singer. And I don't think there's been any other Ozarker that I know of that was a native of the Ozarks that ever appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, besides Russell Newport. He sang, I believe, the Lord's Prayer. And he told me, I interviewed and talked to him 15 years ago when he was still in great shape. He said that they called him, the agency or whatever called, and he lives here in Springfield, lived in Springfield at the time, never lived anywhere else other than when he was in the military, and asked if he would come up and sing. His reputation had preceded him. And so he goes, and he does a great job on live TV about 1961, 1962, and he was called back. And then Ed Sullivan personally said, Russell, we'd like for you to go on the road. He said, Ed Sullivan had a troupe that actually performed across the country representing Ed Sullivan's show. And Russell turned it down because Russell at that time was basically the president of what was called the Newport department stores, 5 and 10 stores. Newport 5 and 10 is really it. They had one in Branson, I think, and obviously Buffalo is where they'd started. And so I just wanted to mention that name, partly because he's still with us. He's one of the older guys that's still on the scene. Now, if I were to go around and ask each one of you to name an Ozark musician, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to embarrass anyone, but probably almost everyone could. Now, the deal is, it might not be anybody that anyone else knew, because it may be Uncle Johnny. I had a great uncle, Johnny Glenn, raised at Riverdale and spent most of his last years in Forsyth. He led the singing. Wherever he was going to church, he loved to lead the singing. And he loved to sing. So I can tell you about Uncle Johnny, because most of the Glens are not very talented musically that I'm aware of. But I bet almost everyone has someone. So when we talk about Ozarks music, we do want to salute the people that were successful, the Slim Wilsons, Speedy, Johnny Mullins, Lloyd Presley. Start throwing out these names, leaving out so many. We do want to emphasize them, but really, I've got to give you the number one person in my book of all the Ozarks musicians. It's not Porter. We already talked about his role. We have another drink here. I'm going to give you the name of a lady who lived to be about 95 years old. Because there's a role to be played. It's not any accident if Ozarks music is kept alive. Somebody has to do that. So if you know old songs that your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents sang, or you've heard them perform, or maybe just in the shed, you know what I mean, when you're milking cows, and dad's just singing away, whatever it was that you heard those songs, we don't want to let them get away. Now there's a fellow, and this is not my favorite person, but he was a friend of this lady. Vance Randolph did a lot of good for the Ozarks. Now, he did a lot of dirt. Vance Randolph, who was not an Ozarker, he was from Kansas, he was close by, and he fell in love with the Ozarks. He wrote book after book after book, and what he did in those books was to tell it the way he saw it among the Ozark people of the 1930s and 40s and 50s. And some of those books are, like I said, a little bit risque, and some people would call them dirty, but in the process, he wrote down so many old folk songs that had been carried to the Ozarks, as we said, by the Scotch-Irish immigrants in the 1830s, 40s, 1850s, 60s, 70s. So those, if you go to right here in the library, Vance Randolph, you will find at least 3 or 4 books that are a treasure of authentic Ozarks music. So that brings me to a friend of Vance Randolph, who was born in Carthage, Missouri, who was a Missouri native, and she is my all-time favorite person, and that's May Kennedy McCord.